So we also have Bangladeshi media as those images came in, including the daily Pratham Alo that said that Hasina is headed towards India. But that daily suggested that she was traveling by road. These images suggest that she left by chopper. There is no official word yet from Indian authorities, from the government, from the police. So I have to stress again and again, it could well be that Hasina is in Agartala. It could well be that she's in Helsinki or en route to Helsinki. I'm not going to endorse any of those reports till we have some official confirmation of those. But yes, Bangladeshi media are reporting that Hasina has headed towards Agartala. Indian media, some outlets reporting that she's already in Tripura. We are awaiting official word from our government and from our foreign ministry. I want to start with you, Naomi, if I can. The day belongs to people like yourselves who have used social media, who've had to champion the cause of human rights from outside of the country, but there are those who have paid with their lives inside the country. They've actually literally been in the firing line. It is the end of Hasina, it seems. Your first thoughts today, giving us the Bangladeshi perspective that the world is probably not paying enough attention to.
Well, thank you so much. I think the main feeling I'm feeling today is relief that today's potential bloodbath did not happen so far. I think it looked like it was going to be a massacre after the carnage yesterday. So the first thing is relief. The second thing, though, is concern. There are already reports of reprisals against, infrastructure, against ruling party symbols. This is something we are really concerned about, and the army, it seems, has stepped down and is not intervening. And then the big issue really is that what happens next? What is the political transition likely to look like? I think we have experience of this from 2006, 2008, where we had a non-party caretaker government that was backed by the army for 2 years that tried to clean up politics in Bangladesh. And the aftermath has been this 15-year increasingly authoritarian regime of Awami League under Sheikh Hasina. So lots to learn from the past. And we're very much hoping that we won't be making the same mistakes again this time.
You mentioned relief and concern. The relief, I imagine, that Hasina has stepped down, the concern that this should not spiral into anarchy on the streets. We've seen Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh's statues, being vandalized today. As unpopular as Hasina was in her final days, and if we have those images, could we please play the images of Mujibur Rahman's statue being vandalized? We'll bring that up in just a moment. Naomi, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very sad, but nevertheless, I think it's also understandable that people feel that they want to vent their anger and frustration on the symbols of the regime. But I think people will feel, sad that this has happened. Many people will. But right now, it's not a moment of control or not a moment of calm reflection in Bangladesh, and I think we can understand why that is. I just really hope that people are not going to get hurt, even if some symbols are destroyed. And I think that is unfortunate if that is the case.
Before I open it up for my colleagues in India, for India, the Hasina relationship, the Bangladesh relationship has been a critical one, and the Hasina relationship has been a good one. I know that a lot of Bangladeshis, like yourself, I followed your Twitter feed carefully. You were disappointed at India not taking a more categorical position, but was that realistic for one country to take a position on what's happening in another country? What did you expect from India that you think did not happen?
I don't know if I really was expecting much from India or indeed from the international community on this front. This was very much a Bangladeshi issue, and Bangladesh had to sort it out. It seems that Bangladesh has sorted out without intervention from outside. But yes, there are obviously a lot of implications for India, the relationship with India now. I think there are other people in this panel who would be better placed to discuss that.
Okay, so in a way, it's important for you to hear that this was, for you to say that this was an internal issue of Bangladesh, for Bangladeshis to resolve themselves. And Ambassador Puri, that is in fact the position that India took. that we're not getting involved. Now, amid reports that Sheikh Hasina is on her way to Agartala by air, by road, is in Agartala, is with her sister, is transiting through India, like I said, there are all manners of reports that she is, at least for the moment, seeking transitory or transient refuge in India. Your first thoughts at what this might mean? Relief and concern are the two words that Naomi used. What are the two words that you would use?
Barkha, thank you very much. And I think when you started the program and you mentioned that Bangladesh is a critical and key major relationship for India in the neighborhood, and of course, Sheikh Hasina was pivotal in it for a variety of reasons. Of course, the fact that she was prime minister for a long time, but the legacy, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his daughter, the relationship that India had with all of that, very important. Having said this, I want to make one point quite clear. India's relationships with Bangladesh are based on both geography as well as people. So yes, there are these particular issues which we've talked about, but I think that the relationships are based on such fundamentals that whoever is in command in Bangladesh comes to power there, the relationship with India will remain, and we will also remain very much open because it is at with the level of the country, etc., that we have this relationship. Now, the question of Agartala, etc., I have a very simple point to make. Uh, if you look at the geography of Bangladesh, and if you think that helicopter is the only way out, there is precious little anywhere else that she could have gone, given the range of helicopters. So, this is a practical thing. What happens after that? Where does she go, etc.? We are all basing ourselves on A, conjecture, or B, some reports here and there. I really don't know if we can comment anything on all of that, but providing a safe passage, which I've seen in some commentaries, is something that certainly I'm sure India would agree to and provide. After all, we do have excellent relations with her and with the country of Bangladesh. And let me put it to you like this: her leaving there in a Bangladesh Air Force helicopter, obviously the powers that be at the moment also know and think that perhaps this was the best way out.
Yeah. So you've mentioned something very important. Again, we have official sources in Tripura. We just established this conversation directly with somebody we know in Tripura that is giving us the name of a place, Asal Bagan in Agartala, where they are confirming that Sheikh Hasina has landed. Again, not overtly officially acknowledged, but being told to us from sources. Can we have that banner back on, please? Ambassador Puri, you are mentioning a safe passage. Are you suggesting... and now we have some more details. She landed in Salbagan, Agartala at 4:15 p.m. That's an hour before the time that we're talking to you right now. We don't know where she's gone from here. This is directly to the Mojo Story, an official on the ground in Tripura saying this to us right now, confirming that an hour ago she's in Tripura. Your sense, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that even if Sheikh Hasina is in India, and by the way, those are the images of the Mujibur Rahman statue being vandalized there. Your sense, Ambassador Puri, is that even if she is in India, this will be a pass-through. This is not asylum. This is not come stay here for a few days till things calm down. You're thinking that this will be a passing through.
So, Barkha, a few days, I don't know what to say about that. But is it going to be like it was? You remember the time after her father was assassinated and the family came and stayed in India. And is it going to be like that? Seems difficult at the moment, given the state of play, including for herself. However, are arrangements in place? Could she have gone? Was there really a plan B available there? I'm not really sure about all of that. And so, therefore, difficult to make conjectures. Can things be done at the drop of a hat? Usually difficult. So we'll have to see. But it would appear as of now that the time duration is difficult to say, but that perhaps in terms of a longer term stay, it may be somewhere else.
Yeah, so there are all kinds of questions that even arise from temporary passage. I don't know, Naomi could speak to how that would look like on the ground in Bangladesh, and Hatimon could address some of the strategic questions. But Meenakshi, at the Human Rights Watch, you have actually been chronicling the crackdown on rights on protesters, on the fact that at some point the army basically said, don't ask us to fire on civilians. And, there are horrific images. We'll place those that we can actually show without censorship because some of them are too graphic to show. There are images that suggest that at some point her own party men took guns in their own hands and attacked people on the street, young people mostly, nearly 100 being killed on the Sunday before this ouster. What has been the main concern for Human Rights Watch as you watch what unfolds in Bangladesh?
Thank you, Barkha. I wanted to speak a little bit to the attacks on the Mujib statues first, just because I wanted to put in context what happened in Bangladesh. On July 15th, the Prime Minister suggested the students that were protesting quotas for descendants of Independence War veterans were therefore children of traitors. Now, co-opting the national history is wrong. This is 1971. Many people were involved. They then chose either to support Awami League or some other party. That does not in any way make them traitors. So co-opting the narrative of independence, suggesting that anyone that opposed, therefore, the Awami League was a traitor, and that too young students, is what set off a lot of the anger that we saw later, including the slogans that said, if I'm a traitor, you're an autocrat. So we do need to remember what happened on July 15th. The fact that six students were killed on July 15th, they were primarily attacked by the youth wing of the Awami League, backed by security forces who used excessive force. And that then sparked, the 6 deaths is what sparked the deadly clashes. And we all know that there were clashes. There were often cases where protesters also engaged in violent acts. And then the army had to be called in and so on. And the fact that yesterday 100 people died. Now, of those 100 people, 14 were policemen. But a large chunk of them were protesters who were being attacked by supporters of this Chhatra League and Jubo League, these youth wings of the Awami League, who had been put on the streets as thugs. So therefore, I think what Naomi is talking about is very important, because curfew was declared. The students said, let us continue to march. So today could have been a bloodbath. Today could have been a day when the army could have chosen one way or the other way. They chose the path that saved lives. And that is really, really important, because people were marching towards Dhaka, defying curfew. And I don't think the army would have had a choice. What do we want to learn from this? One of the things that the UN has said is that we will help you investigate, because Bangladesh's independent institutions were completely overtaken by political patronage. The police was compromised, the judiciary was compromised. No one trusted Sheikh Hasina when she kept saying that I will have an independent investigation, I will investigate each death, I will punish who is responsible, because she never has. Right now, we are still talking about 81 people that remain disappeared since the 2013 elections. We want the army to...
Can I just interject there? Because, sorry, I'm interrupting you because I can see Ambassador Veena Sikri, India's former High Commissioner to Bangladesh, with us, and Happymon hasn't spoken yet, and I know Naomi has limited time. So, Ambassador Sikri, welcome to the program. Your first thoughts. Hasina, just before you joined us, officials in Tripura saying to us that Sheikh Hasina landed in Tripura, in Agartala at about 15 minutes past 4. No official word yet from anyone in government. I should hasten to clarify that this is source-based information. What is your response as the veteran diplomat who has actually represented India in Bangladesh?
Well, thank you, Barkha. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I think I'd like to first begin by responding to the point that the previous speaker was making, and I think it's important to respond to put everything in perspective. I would like to point out one point, that as far as the students' quota reform movement was concerned, Sheikh Hasina and the students have been for the longest time on the same page. Because in 2018, it was Sheikh Hasina's government who abolished the quota for the first time. In 2018, when she was Prime Minister, there were students' riots. The demand was to reform the quota, but she abolished it. It's only in June of this year when somebody went to the High Court to overturn her abolition of the quota, and the High Court reinstated it. And then it went to the Supreme Court. Again, Sheikh Hasina government took it to the Supreme Court to say, we want to make sure that the quota is abolished. So I think that to juxtapose this as a conflict all the time, all along between Sheikh Hasina and the students is incorrect. On the question of Razakars, I'd like to say clearly that what had happened was that in Sheikh Hasina's press conference on 14th of July, she was giving a press conference that she normally does after a foreign visit. She had just come back from China. And her press conference, she was asked questions about the students' protest movement. Right up to that point, Sheikh Hasina and the protesters had been on the same page all along. In that interview, press conference, in response to a question, she said, yes, it is right that the quotas were given for the students of the freedom fighters, and that is natural. It is not the children of the Razakars who would get the quota. The question was about the quota, not about calling the student protesters as quota. And I must tell you that even though there was a protest by the students and they said, I am Razakar, that ended very quickly because nobody in Bangladesh wanted to accept that the students nobody wants the students to be called as Razakars. They are very valuable and a very important part of society in Bangladesh. I would like to say that in my view, that the students' protest, especially after 21st July, because on 21st July, the Supreme Court actually gave a judgment in favor of the students, saying that, yes, we recognize that the quotas should be reduced considerably. Mind you, the students always wanted quota reform. They never even asked for abolition of quota. The Supreme Court said, we will give 5% quota for children of freedom fighters. So now, after that, this student protest, there was a brief moratorium. They had demands for the government saying, we want Sheikh Hasina to apologize, we want the minister to be removed, we want a judicial inquiry, all that was accepted. But I think that because the Chhatra League had got into the act, we had the Shibir, which is the Islami League student wing, getting into the act, we had the BNP student wing getting into the act, it was a complete mayhem. A lot of people died in that, including students, police officials, civilians, a lot of people. In fact, yesterday the Daily Star published that out of the 204 deaths, they estimated it to be 204 in their estimation. The Daily Star did a detailed investigation and they said out of that, 53 were students. This is their statement as of yesterday. And the Daily Star is a very respected newspaper of Bangladesh.
Sure,
I think the students' protest movement was taken over by other factors. It was not a student quota reform movement.
So I think, sorry to interject there.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I could see Naomi, who's giving us a Bangladesh perspective, wanting to interject, and Happy Moon hasn't spoken. Naomi, I'll let you make a brief interjection, and then Happy Moon.
Yes. I need to go in a couple of minutes. Just thank you very much. It's great to hear your views, Ambassador Veena. I think the evidence that the protest was hijacked by opposition party groups is thin to non-existent. The government kept asserting this and provided no evidence of this at all. Of course, some Shibir students did join in. They are students as well. But the fact is that the movement had moved long before this last week beyond the quota question and had moved to a movement for accountability and justice, recognizing the increasingly authoritarian nature of the regime. So I don't think it's true. I also want to say one last thing, which is about the young people of Bangladesh. Now, I'm an academic, I'm an educator, I meet young people all the time. I work with young people in Bangladesh and around the world, but in Bangladesh in particular. These people are deeply patriotic. They really want to serve their country. And this is the terrible irony, the tragic irony of this. So many of them really wanted, they really were proud of what was achieved even under the Sheikh Hasina regime in terms of development. They wanted to serve their country. And this is the terrible tragedy that this has come to this with all of these.
Naomi, before you leave, I do want a quick word from you on what you hope and pray will happen in Bangladesh now.
I hope and pray first that the violence can be contained, that there won't be any reprisal deaths or anything like that. But, I know that's very difficult. The entire city is down. The entire country is on the streets. It sounds like a city of 20 million in Dhaka on the streets right now. It's going to be very difficult to manage. I really hope that the army will provide some peace, but not try to intervene in the political process. I really hope also that we learn from our mistakes of the past, including of the 2006 to 2008 caretaker government, where excellent efforts were made, but nevertheless, some mistakes were made. And I'm hoping we're going to learn and do better next time. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Thank you. Thank you
bringing us.
thank you for your time, and I hope everybody back home is safe. Thank you, Naomi Hussain, for the Bangladesh perspective. We're going to carry on the conversation because for India there are now some real questions. Happy one, Jacob. It's over to you. Happy one, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now, yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
I was saying that on the face of it, it appears that this is probably not really advantageous to India's regional interests, as it were. Given the fact that, as Ambassador Puri pointed out, India has had a great relationship with the Sheikh Hasina government in Dhaka. So her fall, in many ways, is perhaps not something that is necessarily advantageous to India. Having said that, I will sort of hasten to add that we must look at the big picture, and the big picture really is that Indian diplomacy and Indian foreign policy agenda is big enough that we can reach out to whoever is in charge in Dhaka in the days and months ahead and cultivate a relationship. That is point number one. And secondly, I think this is also perhaps a lesson for us that we must actively reach out to various actors in our regional capitals. For example, before Taliban came to power in Afghanistan in 2021, our outreach to Taliban was very patchy. Today, for example, we have a situation in Myanmar, and I think we are probably not, in my opinion, we are not reaching out to the opposition groups in Myanmar.
So you're saying we can't look like we take a side, like we looked that we were on Hasina's side in this.
Yes, we looked like we were on Hasina's side. I don't think we need to be bearing the cross of the past, as it were, the burden of the past, as it were. Things happen in neighboring countries. I think we are a big enough country to sort of live with the consequences of some of those decisions. In any case, what is happening in Bangladesh is Bangladesh's own internal issue. This is nothing to do with India, as it were. I don't think we should look at what is happening in Bangladesh through our own prism. This is politics that is unfolding in Bangladesh. It is likely to have some negative consequences for India, but I think we'll have to weather the storm going forward.